Hey, in this video, I'll break down 5 AI agent systems running on marketing 24/7. All you hear right now is everyone's talking about AI agents, but almost none of it is really coming from others. You hear all the talk about engineers building them, developers writing about them, but I just see very few people actually talking about like running campaigns, running follow-up sequences, and doing actual like marketing with some of these agents. My name's Orrett Davis. I am a marketer running a B2B digital agency, and over the last 90 days, agents have been running real marketing workflows for us in production. These are not demos, these are not proof of concepts. They're actual systems making real impactful decisions for us in our day-to-day workflows. When you think about marketing and sales, like the bottleneck has never really always been about strategy. It's generally always been about execution. And some of the examples that we've always thought through and worked around is like we know that we should be doing personalized follow-ups with prospects, but we just never really have the time to do so. We know that we should be pulling ad data daily and looking at dashboards, but these often get really messy. And same thing goes with like research. Like we read tons of articles, whether X or on YouTube, and what happens to that information after you read it? And then finally, when you think about something like lead magnets, free audits and offers, you know that we should be doing one for prospects, but building these takes tons of time and resources and effort. And I think AI agents has helped us to minimize the impact of all of these and is able to do them at scale. So not everyone needs an autonomous agent. Most people aren't really there yet. I think there's this flow chart of levels that people go through. And at the bottom level, you have like the AI chat. So you ask a question, you get an answer. This is your Claude, your traditional ChatGPT, Gemini. From there, you move up to the AI coworker. So you think a coworker is the kind of the best example of this, where AI is really collaborating with you in real time on documents and on projects. A level up from there is kind of the AI coding tools. So Claude Code, Cursor, the Windsurfs of the world, where AI is writing code and you're guiding the approval. These could be custom scripts, Python. You're actually building tools and products. And then at the final level is like kind of this concept of the autonomous agent, where you have things like OpenClaw, you have OpenAI agents, you have Hermes, you have all these agents really where AI works almost independently and you're just reviewing output. There's a memory to it, there's persistence to it, things happen 24/7. At the end of the day, I think the best tools are really about kind of where you are currently in this chart. But I think there's no denying that everyone is moving very quickly up through these levels, and where most folks now are trying to reach this level 4 or level 3 in terms of their daily workflows. So we'll break down the 5 systems that we're running right now in production. These are Conduit, which is our data warehouse, which has replaced kind of Tableau and Looker Studio for us. We have our Anomaly Detection, which is an add-on to Conduit, which does dashboard checking and is checking for proactive alerts. We have Brainiac, which is our second brain system for those bookmarks that we never opened, but now we actually make use of them. We have our post-call sequence that allows us to do really personalized and custom follow-ups. And then finally, you have a really great example of a personalized lead magnet with our digital roadmap. So this is an audit pipeline that used to take us, weeks to get done. We can now basically do almost instantly. All right, so let's dive in. So Conduit is our data warehouse. So this is something that we've built now, and it costs us almost nothing to run. And the main problem that we're trying to solve for is this concept of really having to log into all these dashboards on Meta, Google, LinkedIn, build out these custom dashboards in Looker Studio and other tools that were costing us not only hundreds of dollars a month, but also just tons of time. And then we realized like most clients just don't want to look through a bunch of dashboards. And it's actually not the most effective way sometimes to consume a lot of this information. So what we've done is built out a local data warehouse on something called DuckDB, just an open source database. And it syncs all of our data daily at 6 a.m. There's no server, there's no cloud built. Everything's just backed up to our GitHub account. And we can ask questions in plain text. What's the CBA trend over the last 14 days? Which creators are fatiguing? And one of the really great outputs that we get from that is every week on, I think it's Monday morning, we get a list of concepts that are fatiguing, things that we need to scale, and then we also can propagate new ad concepts based off of the actual real life data that we're getting from the campaigns that we're running. And kind of what this looks like on this kind of what the architect of this looks like is we have all of our data sources. So we're pulling in from the Meta Ads API, Google Ads. We're also pulling in from PostHog, which is our analytics and product marketing platform. All gets daily synced through a cron job, through some Python scripts, normalizes all this data, and gets stored and housed in DuckDB. So like no server cost, no cloud soft. It's just hosted locally, a Mac Mini, and backed up on our GitHub accounts. And then from there, we can just have normal conversations about the data with any of these agents. So, hey, what's the CPA trend over the last 14 days? Which creatives are fatiguing? Spend this week versus last week. These just become simple questions that can get asked. So it just avoids that like question from a CEO, like, hey, what's our CAC over the last quarter? And now that just becomes a simple prompt and you can get an immediate response back. One of the reasons why we did this overall setup here is when you're making like MCP calls or pulling data directly from the Meta API, you run the risk of actually your account getting banned. So when you do it like this, it's actually less API calls. We can actually batch load the data on one kind of big pull instead of every time us having a question about something like this, we're querying the Meta API or querying the Google API. This allows for cleaner, cheaper data pulls. And so every client for us now gets a version of Conduit from day one. The great thing is that the agent is the dashboard. And instead of having to log on to their HubSpot account or the Looker Studio or manually log into Facebook Meta ads, it's just all there, like I said, in just a human accessible text-based format. The second system that I want to talk about is our anomaly detection. This is a piggyback on or an addition to the base Conduit model that we have. And what it monitors for is just traffic anomalies, campaign drift, funnel breaks. We're literally looking for things that would tell us if there's something wrong with the marketing campaigns or the funnels that we're running. So sudden drops in sign-offs or conversion rates, or if we see CPAs are creeping up over a 3-day period, or if we're just conversion rates are just dropping below a typical baseline. And a real example for us of how something like this has saved us and helped one of our clients is there was a top day where we saw 40% plus drop off in form completions. This happened on like a Tuesday. And within a matter of hours, the agent was able to surface a broken tracking script after a deployment. Something like this, is one of those things that can silently go unknown and kind of leave an agency or leave a company kind of scrambling to figure out what's broken. Instead of losing days of lost leads, we were able to really track this down within a matter of hours and be incredibly proactive with having this agent system in place. We tie in events from PostHog as an analytics platform, similar to GA4, but just more product marketing focused, more event focused. And then we pair it with the Meta ads data, Google ads data, all goes back into kind of the base level of Conduit. And from there, separate agent runs, which is really looking for this anomalies and to try to compare things to a baseline normal and can propagate up alerts. Hey, there's drop off in signups, or hey, there's a warning of CPAs creeping up. And so we just get this very proactive heads up alert hours and not days later. It's just such a critical piece, especially when you're spending thousands of dollars towards traffic to a landing page. The third system happens to probably be my favorite, and it's Brainiac. So if you're familiar with the Superman universe, so the Brainiac character, and basically what this does, anything that I read or consume gets ingested, gets scored, gets routed, and then gets stored with our agents. And so for me, I'm a big reader. I'm always bookmarking things on X or YouTube videos or just general blog posts that we see. I'm able to share this and drop this into our resource channel for Brainiac to consume. And so what happens there, perfect example, is if I share something around meta ads management, Brainiac rates it and scores it on a scale 1 to 125. Based on how novel it is, if it actually provides real insights, if it's something different from what we're already doing, and it kind of extracts out of that information, and then it's routed to the specific sub-agent that it's relevant for. And so what it allows us to do is to constantly be updating skills, templates, kind of resources, and it's our internal process based off of active projects that we're working on right now or active campaigns. And the example of how Brainiac really works, if I find something useful and it gets shared into our resource channel, gets ingested, scored, we match it to the project, and then it's stored to make it searchable in a later date. It's routed to the specific agent. So if it applies to creative sprints, it might go to TARS. If it applies to like our infrastructure, it might go to Guilfoyle. If it applies to like how we distribute content, I think about content, it goes to our Blitz, which is a distribution agent. And then agents start to then incorporate all this into their active workflow and work cycles. So I've provided two examples here. One, I found a really cool design prompts. And so this is rated pretty highly. And so this is then shared to our design agents. And then the other example here, I just was playing around with trying to update my terminal. And this is then decision was made here that this is not something that should be shared internally with our fleet and is just meant for my internal references for our documents. System 4 is around kind of sales enablement and really post-call sequences. And so this just really allows us to do kind of this white glove follow-up at scale. You had a sales call. What typically happens afterwards is you have to follow up, and a lot of times is the follow-ups are pretty generic. Hey, did you get that? Did you get a chance to read the email? I'm just following up. And this whole system, what it allows us to do is to port in a transcript automatically as soon as a sales call happens. The agent then extracts out any kind of pain points, objections, competitors, kind of budget signals, emotional triggers, like anything that really got brought up during the course of the sales call, and then is able to write 5 to 7 highly personalized email sequences specific to that conversation. And so the examples here, hey, you mentioned your team spends 6 hours a week piling up data from 3 app platforms. Here's how we solve that in a weekend. Or you asked about competitor X versus like our approach. Here's a specific difference to the exact features you raised. Or, hey, you referenced the ROI scenario, you described the specific numbers, and then we can import in the specific numbers that they referenced. So this is really incredibly helpful sales enablement, sales workflow, especially post initial discovery call or onboarding call, that helps to really kind of personalize that follow-up. So the next system that I'll talk about really centers around kind of personalized lead magnets and personalized offers. And for us, one of the systems that we've built out is this digital roadmap. This is a process that used to take us, 3 to 5 hours to do manual work. And maybe we could do 2 to 3 of these per week, but now we've been able to build out this system where we can create this highly personalized little roadmap that produces such great output. A VP of marketing could take this document, hand it to their team on Monday, and immediately begin executing. This is really turned out to be a really awesome and great resource for us. It used to take us 2 weeks as part of a whole discovery phase. Now we can do something like this, personalized directly after a first meeting, and kind of really just use it to really impress prospects. So the build out of this is really this multi-step process where we have, the 7-stage plus audit pipeline, and, where a prospect can submit a URL, and we can put in their URL, and then we have these multiple stages that run with parallel agents where we can do product marketing, the website crawl, we can do the ad library research, the customer research, all happen in parallel. Then it moves on to the next stage where we can start to do some CRO analysis, conversion of information, the paid media audit, competitor teardowns, where we actually visit all of these sites as well too, kind of bring all the information in. And then layer 3, where the strategy happens. So the campaign briefs happen. We did ad copy, actual great ad copy, landing page copy as well too, content strategy. All those, stage 1s to stage 3s get parsed down. They all get kind of assembled together. All the information gets concentrated together. And then we do a quality gate. We have a CMO agent whose sole job is to, one, kill any kind of generic advice, and really specific ICP-focused copy, and then flags any kind of AI filler, and then does multiple revisions until it passes a quality gate. Combined effort but through all these agents then becomes this really awesome 30-plus page personalized digital roadmap audit, plus a PDF that's delivered. So this workflow is probably one of the more complex workflows that we've worked on, but the output is an incredibly personalized, actionable document that prospects can go off and use. They get tons of value from this as well too. And something that used to be a considerable lift for us to do, we can now essentially do almost for free and just provide a ton of value, immediately be up front for prospects that are looking to work with us. I've shown you some examples of how some of these systems work together. None of these really work alone. It all is kind of this one compounding effect on terms of like what a Monday morning kind of looks like for us. And so what happens before I even wake up a lot of times is that Conduit is syncing all of this data. The anomaly detections are running. The agents are posting and looking and reviewing, doing stand-ups, get morning briefs for priorities on overnight work. Creative sprints get kicked off, whether we should kill, scale, or generate new concepts. Brainiac is routing anything that I found over the course of the weekend and parsing that out to other agents. If I had a sales call that happened, those email sequences are automatically going off without me having to really do anything. And then finally, if any new prospects come in, new leads, we can immediately spin up this digital roadmap audit auto delivery process.
What really happens now is my focus is really on reviewing output and improving decision, like kind of being the human in the loop. Because I'm really like focused on the 2 to 3 things per day that actually need
a human brain and human input. But overall, what this has really allowed me to do is kind of be one person, but 10x my overall output. So I'm not necessarily working harder, but my systems that I have in place are compounding growth for us as our agency, for our clients, and basically almost everything that we're doing. One thing, though, I do need to be very honest about our overall experience building agents and building some of these systems is that it breaks a lot. And this is something that we don't see a lot of people talk about, and they kind of portray this image that these systems are perfect, that they're rosy, everyone's having a really great experience. And I think that's so far from the truth. And we've seen things that, agents are still hallucinating, like regardless of whatever platform wants to say. We've actually had to put in, very strict gates around it. That CMO quality gate is a perfect example of this, where, the first audits had just fabricated metrics and fabricated insights that we had to just immediately just squash. We're still seeing issues where like cron jobs will fail randomly, at 3 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning before they need to run. And sometimes this is just dependent on, models like Claude being down. Other times just random issues that pop up. So it just forces us to kind of manually fix these things and kind of manually monitors these issues. So I think for me, what that really just shows is that this is still very much like beta software. We're still very much in this like tinkering phase. What works today may not necessarily work next month. Things are constantly changing with this. And, the API calls are costing more and more money. We've seen recently that what Claude has done with access for OpenClaw, it's caused us to change part of our approach. And I think part of this is just because all of this is so brand new. There's not the Apple version of any of these systems where it just works and it's just magical experience. We're just not there yet. So I don't say any of this to scare you. I'm just trying to give you the honest truth that we found at building these systems, over the last 3 and 6+ months now that we've been doing this. If you're not using AI today, I encourage you to start, even if you're just at level 1, especially if you're drowning in any kind of executional work and you're wondering, like, is this real? And the short answer is it absolutely is, but it's incredibly messy. It's improving fast, but I think it's absolutely worth the learning curve and worth the effort to implement in your business, whether you're a B2B tech company, whether you're an agency owner, whatever it may be. Things are changing so rapidly that we're seeing more and more talk and discussion around, AI fluency and how it's just not something that's optional anymore.
it's the like new standard when it comes towards business.
And recently we've seen that Zapier has just published out their AI fluency rubric. And this is something that every new hire of theirs kind of must demonstrate AI fluency to 100%. They have this 4-part scoring system from unacceptable to capable to adaptive to transformative. And basically now what they're saying is that they won't hire anyone that's below capable. That's the minimum bar. But really they want to really push for adaptive because that's where they see where the most leverage is, where people are orchestrating AI to build systems that elevate how they work. And ideally they want to get everyone to transformative, where they're essentially re-engineering how work even happens in the first place. And I don't think this is a company necessarily being overly aggressive. I think this is just the future of where we see most industries are heading in their utilization of AI and AI agents. And I think the question is, how do you start to build out these fluencies today and you're not scrambling to catch up later? So I really think that there are 2 paths. And I think both of these are absolutely valid. Path A is where you build it yourself. Like you get started on some of these AI daily workflows. This month or this quarter, you kind of build out 1 or 2 tools that you actually need. And then when you're ready, you start to move on to these autonomous systems where you do one function at a time. And then there's the second path, path B, where you work with someone who's already built a lot of these functions already. Especially a B2B tech company, if you're C to Series B and you need pipeline now, every system that I've showed in this video, this system that we run for clients from day one working with us. So if you want a demo to see how the system works, go ahead and submit your URL and we'll run the free pipeline audit. So this will take a look at your landing page, your CRO, take a look at some of your paid ad accounts and kind of give an overall tear down of improvements that you can make to your landing pages and to your funnel. There'll be a link in the comments below for you to take a look and kind of give the system a test of your own. And if you're a B2B tech company looking to build pipeline, leveraging the latest in AI agents, feel free to book a strategy call with me below. And with that, have a good one.